So we have this running thing. Okay, how are we going to go from I'm ready to run, I want to get started, how do I do this? Because most of my runners will go like, if I'm not running 3 miles, Steve, I'm not going out the door. And if you think about that scar, we prepped the scar with all the pulling along that scale that I drew. But running's a little different. Like if you're doing 10 lunges on a side or something, that's stressful to the scar, but nothing is as stressful as running on it. 80 times a minute, hard pulls, hard abrupt pulls every single time. And if you're taking 80 steps a minute and you go run for 30 minutes, it's 2,400 times you just pulled on a scar. Sometimes a scar can legitimately only take a couple minutes, but you have to do it because you have to pull on it to make it tougher. If you over pull, and we're going to talk about how do you know if you're over pulling in a minute, then you have to take a step back. You have to make sure that you don't re-injure yourself. So here's how we do this. We're ready to start running. What we always start someone with is either 5 minutes 2 times, 5 minutes 2 times, or 10 minutes solo. So the 5 minutes 2 times, this is something that it really depends. Sometimes it's actually less than this. It depends on how much the runner's doing, if they're running straight, if they're a run walker and things. But if you've been injured for a really long time, we start you off with 5 minutes 2 times. If you went through the plan pretty quick, we would start you off with a 10-minute feeler. And that's how we would start. The other thing that we do is we do every other day running. What'll happen is you'll start off every other day, and we'll adjust this based on the runners. Some people are really quick, we'll get them up quickly. Some people need a little bit more coddling based on where they're coming in at. But we start every other day. So I'll give you an example of what a plan might look like. It might be 10 off. And on these off days, we're hitting the cardio hard, we're hitting core, we're hitting our glutes. We're still doing some of the things that got us here, but we're going to take that off day and do non-impact activities. Then we do 10 again, making sure it's good. Then we do another off day or cross train. XT is cross train. Then we'll do 15 off. Then we'll do 20 off. And then I'll usually, the way the plan works is we usually get them up and we'll do a little plateau session. And maybe around 20 minutes, just keep them at 20 for 2 or 3 runs. Depends on how much they're struggling. And then we'll climb again up to 30 to 35, plateau them again, and then bring them up to 40. So just know you can't go out for 3 miles because you feel like you can. We'll really start someone off with 10, maybe 5 by 2 minutes, and we'll start to inch their way back. This is definitely the runners who have been injured for a long time, who've been beat up for a long time. So if you're not, you're coming in good. And it also depends on what races are coming up. Well, here's the thing, there are no races coming up, so you have time to work through this process unless you're watching this in the fall of post-coronavirus. The big thing here is you have to take your time with this, and there's no better time right now if you're injured than to just get this taken care of. So this would be an example of how we would build this up. It's not quick by any means. It can be quicker if someone's got a race coming or if they're doing really well with it. So how do you know though, like if you're out for a run, what I experience with most of my runners is when I finally get them back to running, they're so nervous about it, or they're not so nervous. Like a lot of them are like nervous, but they're okay, right? They're not crazy about it, but they're going out for a run, and sometimes what they're doing is the whole time they're running, they're so like abused by their injuries. The whole time they're running, like, oh my God, did I feel something? Is it there? Oh my God. How's my calf? Like every 2 seconds, all they're thinking about is their injury site. So it can drive you nuts a little bit. So we come up with a 0 to 5 scale. I want to run you through that now and talk about how do you know when you're hurting yourself or not. So 0, I don't know if I have enough room. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my scale for my runners. How do we know when they're causing problems? 0 is you feel nothing. So I would take a picture of this too, if you're watching, maybe a screenshot. Running along, right? I feel great. I don't feel anything, I feel fine. Great, keep going. You're not probably aggravating it, okay? 1, you're aware of it. So I'm just gonna write aware. Aware of it means you're running, you're like, I don't know if I feel something. It might just be in my head. That's the key thing people think of. I've been injured myself, so this is how I come up with a lot of this stuff. So you're running along and you're, I don't know, I think it's just in my head. That's kind of a number 1. Number 2 is you definitely feel it. So feel it. So that's when you're running along and you're like, yeah, it's there. I know exactly where it is. It's that spot. It's there. 0, 1, and 2 are okay, because that means, like, if you're at a 0, you're probably not straining the scar yet. But a 0 can progress to a 1, which is a slight strain. The scar is still good, but it's starting to maybe be strained a little bit. 2 is you're starting to feel it, like, yep, it's right there. It doesn't hurt, but I know where it is. What that means to me is the scar is taking some effort. It's taking some strain. And one of 2 things are going to happen. One of 3 things are going to happen. You can get to a 2 and stay there for the rest of your run, and then you would just self-assess afterwards. If you're worse afterwards, then you should have stopped, and you'll learn from that. So if it stays at a 2, you can just keep going and see how you feel afterwards. Sometimes it'll go down. Like, it'll be fine, and it'll go down to a 1 or a 0, and then you're good to go, and you just keep running. But sometimes it crosses over to a 3. And just think about, like, that cut on the knuckle, right? We finally got enough scarring to happen, and we start doing this a little bit, and we start pulling on it. And what ends up happening is we start breaking it apart. 3 is hurts a little, but you can definitely keep running. This is where most people take their injuries to, is they take it to a 3. You're running along, and you're like, yeah, it hurts, but it's not going to stop me. It's nothing I would stop running for. Boom. You're breaking down your scar. You've gone too far. So when you get to this hurts a little stage, and if you're someone who's like so I get runners that come in there, it's a 2.5. If it's a 2.5, it's a 3. If you have to split hairs between, do I feel it as a hurt? It's a 3. Round it up. So that's what a lot of people say. What I want you to think about here is this is usually like a slight burn, a slight aggravating, it's slightly painful. What's happening is the scar is breaking apart. All that tissue you laid down on there is breaking apart. And you're going to have to go back down and lay it down again. So what I usually tell my runners in this stage is that, you can, if you don't go far into this, it's actually not that bad because the body will come in and heal it up. But if you go too far into this and you stay at a 3 long enough, we're going to have to go back down that scale a couple levels and then have to build back up. So I usually tell them to stay close to home on these runs. These are runs where we're not really sure how you're going to be. Your confidence gets built as you continue to do it. But this is a big part of what we want to do. And then what typically happens before people see me is I go to a 4. A 4 is it definitely hurts. I shouldn't be out here. So that's a 4. You're running along, you're like, oh my God, that hurts. And you're like, it hurts. But you keep running usually anyways, if you're like most of the runners I know. And 5 is you're limping. Congratulations, you've gone way too far. You've shredded the tissue. So 0 to 5, this is your scale when you're coming back from injury. Keep in mind of the other things I mentioned, which is like the dull achiness, all those other things that I talked about. Is it an injury or is it just a normal ache? But this is my scale to get through here. And big thing is 0, 1, 2 is you can stay in there all the time. Sometimes what you need to do is mix it up. Like I have my runners, they don't want to just run for 15 minutes, so go do elliptical for 30 minutes and then do a 15-minute run. Your legs will be tired, you get a little bit more cardio, and you should be fine. Do a spin class. Spinning is a great way for a lot of running injuries to get the endurance up and maintain a strong endurance base without becoming a problem. But I want to talk to you about my other rule I've learned over 10 years of doing this. There is no research behind this. I'm just giving you what I've seen over the years. The other stuff about straining a scar and different types of exercises, plenty of stuff on that. But the 40-minute rule. The 40-minute rule is something I devised over the years, and then what I found was until someone gets to 40 minutes of running, they are not out of the woods. And what I mean by that is I could have someone who's been consistently running 30 minutes. Like we gave them a couple of 30-minute runs, they're fine. They go out for a run, and within 5 minutes, something doesn't feel right. Like it starts to get re-injured quickly. And for whatever reason, you just caught it wrong, or it's breaking down, it's hit a breaking point. The 40-minute rule, until you get to this 40 minutes, you have to have the smarts and the ability to pull the plug on a run that's not going well. So you're out for your third 30-minute run, and at 7.5 minutes, it starts to hurt. I usually tell people cuss and go home. Because if you go home at that point, you get to that 3, and you start to get aggravated, if you shut it down, you're not going to do any damage. You're just tearing at the scar a little bit. It'll heal quickly. But some people are like, some runners, damn it, I ran 30 minutes last time. I am not going backwards. I am going to finish this sucker. And then they shred it. And guess what? It goes back to that nothing to running scale. If you're out on your 30-minute run, we finally got up the scale, we're out on a run, we're 10 minutes away from being out of the woods, and you push that run too hard, and all of a sudden it starts to hurt to walk again. Hurts to do stairs again. You went from way up here, almost out of the woods, all the way back down. And then we got to go through this scale again. We got to get you back up into running. So that's how you know. That's how you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm good. We do rush this based off of what's going on, depending on the runner, how many people they have, how quickly they have to be ready for a race. Sometimes we take some risks. Sometimes we take some chances to get someone up this level quicker based on what they have coming up. But again, none of us have anything. All the races are shut down at this point. So we have time to do this. So if you're struggling with injury, or if you know someone who's struggling, share this with them. The couple workouts I definitely recommend doing. If you go to tryrunsmart.com, I have actually 5 workouts because I posted the one from this morning on there. 5 workouts to give a try to. If you like those, I really encourage you to come into the RunSmart Training Center, where I have 50 or 30 something workouts and training plans and everything else. And there's actually my injury management seminar in here that covers a lot of this as well, that you can work your way through, but that should be good.